Hello, and thank you for joining us. The Pentagon's 1033 program, a synopsis into how local law enforcement has benefited from the program based on items dispensed, locality, frequency, quantity, and cost. The 1033 program was formed by the Defense Logistics Agency, better known as DLA. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal years 1990 to 1991 was initiated to assist in the efforts of local law enforcement and state agencies in the war on drugs. Although data cannot affirm or negate that agencies were in fact using the equipment for these local efforts to counter drug activities nationwide, Congress decided to expand the program. Therefore, in 1997, the act was expanded to include all state and local law enforcement agencies so that they could acquire property formerly owned by the military for legitimate law enforcement purposes that assist in their arrest and apprehension missions. Program logistics. Since October of 1995, the 1033 program had been under the jurisdiction of DLA and the Law Enforcement Support Office, LESO. Agencies make a formal written request to participate in the program. Approvals are granted by the state coordinator and the LESO. Upon approval to participate in the 1033 program, the law enforcement agencies appoint a liaison to visit their local DLA disposition services site. There they request items using the Enterprise Business Portal. Each item request requires justification and approval. Law enforcement agencies are financially responsible for all transportation and shipping costs of requested items. Imagine the shipping costs for an MRAP. If you turn to the next slide, you will see an example of a combat-resistant vehicle, which can be purchased through the 1033 program. Here, this is for Garfield Police Department, which those funds were used to purchase through the 1033 program. In the next slide, you'll see which states participate in the 1033 program and what was the quantity of their purchases. You notice the darker colored states like Texas, California, and Georgia are in the quantity of 30,000 or more. And lighter states like Alaska are about 9 to 10 items, maybe 15 items. Top 10 states requesting MRAPs. MRAPs are mine-resistant vehicles. They are military vehicles which were used in either Iraq or Afghanistan or some type of military deployment. Here you'll see the top 10 states in regards to purchasing MRAPs. You have Alabama, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, New Jersey, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. Texas by far is the largest state and by far has the largest amount of mine-resistant vehicles purchased. They purchased something short of 100, so about 98 mine-resistant vehicles. In the next slide, you will see the acquisition value. Throughout the program, all states combined have spent about $1.5 billion or the items have a combined value of about $1.5 billion. The state of Alabama, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, New Jersey, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas will continue to show you that these states are in the top 10, or most of them are in the top 10, no matter how you look at the data, whether it's frequency, cost, value, or per state. Here you can also see the item with the most value is the mine-resistant vehicles. Also, next in line would be truck or utility trucks. So those would be high cost items, also highly to cost to ship, because remember, states pay all transportation and shipping costs. The next slide, you will see a snapshot of Florida. Florida's frequency in purchase items, Florida's frequency purchase items by year, Florida's quantity by agency, and Florida's rifle quantity. The reason why the rifle quantity is here is because, as you can see, Florida purchases a large amount of rifles through the 1033 program. So when you're looking at these snapshots, be mindful that agencies don't purchase all their equipment through the 1033 program, just what they can purchase through the 1033 program, because it's based on availability. So if they can get it at a discounted rate, then they're more likely to utilize that program. In our next slide, you will see that Florida Atlantic University Police Department is part of the 1033 program. They have just one purchase back in 2001. We decided to include it, even though most of our data is focused on 2011 to 2013. In 2001, Florida Atlantic University purchased a combat assault wheeled vehicle, which has a value of about $35,000. I was unable to find a photo of the exact Florida Atlantic combat vehicle. However, if you're able to find a video or a photo, please post it in the reply to our discussion. Florida frequency of purchase items by year. If you notice the different colors, it will show you that Florida has purchased items from the beginning of the program in 1994 to 2018. So I noticed that the rifles 2018 color is below 2016 and 2017. I'm not quite sure why it showed up that way, but it did. The top 10 state acquisition values. Once again, you have Alabama, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, New Jersey, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas spending the most money, and buying the most quantities and purchasing the most items most frequently. The top 10 items based on acquisition value. Here you'll see the MRAP surpasses everything. Truck, utility, and aircraft fixed wing are the highest. Fairly low, I would say, is the rifles, which are the most frequently purchased items. So if that goes to show you the cost and the value opposed to other items purchased. Top 10 stations by acquisition value. So this shows you the actual local law enforcement agency and how much the items they requested are valued at. So here you have Arizona with above 70 million in acquisition value, which is an enormous amount, because if you look at all the other agencies, it's very low compared to Arizona. Not sure why theirs is so high. However, it could be sort of alarming to see that they spent $70 million in the program. Magazine purchases by state. Magazine purchases are amongst the #1 item, the top 10 items that are purchased by states. And if you look here, Georgia spent just shy of $13,000 in magazine cartridges. Not too far behind is Ohio and Texas. Then we have Arizona. Everybody else seems to be within a safe amount, 5,000 or below. Next, we have magazine value compared to quantity purchased. One thing that we noticed, because we focus on 2011 to 2013, is that in 2012, there was a drastic approximately 5,000 drop in purchases of magazine cartridges. However, the value went up about $1,000 from 2011 to 2012. We do know that there was an election at the time, and that there was some violence going on across the country, but that wouldn't explain the decline in quantity. But this is an example of supply and demand. We have less, but it's worth more. Top 10 items purchased by top 10 law enforcement agencies. Once again, you're going to see Anchorage here with very high amount of medical supplies. And then you have Georgia Department of Public Safety Law Enforcement Agency with high magazine cartridge. And then everybody else kind of leveled out. It's not anything more than 5,000 in quantity. So remember, this is not the cost of the item. This is how many they purchased. So over 15,000 medical supplies for Anchorage. Here you can see a frequency chart. When you go on the Tableau website, you'll be able to manipulate these charts to show you frequency per item based on the state, the local law enforcement agency, or the time frame that the item was purchased. In conclusion, while the data does not appear to show any bias, it is a fair assessment to notice that Alabama, Florida, Texas tend to be amongst the highest in every area to include frequency, quantity, and acquisition value. The most frequently requested items are magazines, ammunition, combat-resistant vehicles, and rifles. Also, you can see that the value of magazines skyrocketed in 2012. However, there was a significant decline in purchases during that time. MRAPs, or combat-resistant vehicles, purchases increased during that time. We also know that the country was involved in elections and experiencing high levels of violence, which could explain the surge in MRAP purchases, because you're going to want your law enforcement agencies to be protected when going out into the community. Also, troops were withdrawing from Iraq, which could explain an influx in the availability of items. So because the items were available, of course, the agencies are going to go out and request those items. If you have any further questions, you can check out our Tableau website and manipulate the data to come up with some nifty questions and just post them down in the comment section on the discussion board. Thank you and have a nice day. Hello, and thank you for joining us. The Pentagon's 1033